Hi there, everybody. This is Mark Bromley, artist and author of the Yoranthium book series. And today I have for you a quick sketch that I was putting together to describe the fortress that is in Book 2 that Virtus, in the land of the potentate, escapes to. He's the high priest Virtus. He was the one of the Hollow Womb. That is his. That is what he actually represents. He represents the demons of our society, a third of the population that is cruel and abusive towards people of child. And this is a true statistic actually done by medical research and studies and reported through American nurses in the United States that a third of the population is abusive towards people that are with child. And, in the Book of Jintru, I go into this concept a little bit, trying to explain uh, the modern woes and evils of some of the suffering that people face and why they need to rise above that fear, above that suppression, above that the suffering of this world to protect young and new life. Every single soul is created upon conception. And within the 7 to 8 days of conception, that leads to implantation. There's a communication that goes on of human chorionic gonadotropin between the child and mother. So the mother knows that it's a child, and this is why it implants. If that communication fails, it's probably because the uh, conception didn't actually form a human being at that point, and that's why it would be a miscarriage, because it's a natural process. The process of the value of life is actually a natural process. It always is. Which life is more valuable? Can be debated, and it is a logical and reasonable discussion. We're not talking about those kind of things, but upon conception, the new child soul is born, and that soul could, according to many spiritual beliefs and spiritual customs, be someone of greatness, someone that can enlighten you and bring you to a more better understanding, a higher understanding of the nature of life itself, the life around you, the universe. I do talk about Gaianism in the book too, the Book of Jintru, which is the second book after Lost Hope in the Yoranthium book series. So go to my website, get Yoranthium, read that book, help me out with this art because I've filled up like more than two folders of artwork in the real world of the little drawings and sketches that I do. And this particular sketch right here is the fortress on the border of the land of the potentate, which was formerly Trevelyan Hold, and Kenilworth, which is the Senate founded kingdom. Um, there's a little chasm between this building and the border of Kenilworth. Uh, that was created a long time ago during uh, the very first war that actually happened a long time ago. And the hero of that did die in it in the final conflict. It's explained within the book series. And this is where Virtus escapes to with the rest of his remaining priests of his dark temples that would murder and kill children and enslave the people. And it's an illustration of what our current uh, problems in our current modern politics are like in this world, but it's told in a fantasy setting using elves, so no people are being hurt in this. It's just elves just talking about what the current schism is in the brutality that that third of the abusive people in the world have created within our politics. Yeah, a third of the population of any country is a significant voice. It's not a very quiet one. They do control the Democrat Party at this time, and they do have nothing but a hateful, harmful message. And it's sad, and I put that in this book to explain that, why it's so sad. And you can see it. You can see the interactions, the hostility, the hate that the Democrat Party has created. aimed at anybody that's good or just or nice. And you can see why I tell people that I live in North Korea, because I live in poverty. If you want to help me out here in the United States, you're welcome to get my book. It's a product. I believe in selling products, so I do have products, my own products, of course. But you can help me out with that, and that would be a good thing. That'd be proof that that maybe there is hope for our people. Maybe there is hope in our politics. Maybe there is actually a better future that we can actually work for. Because if we follow the current trend with the Democrats, it is going to be oppression. It is already slavery. They use children in their elections, minors, to do adult elections, putting out QR codes to fake websites to lie and spread dishonesty and deceit. Wow, I ran into it myself. It's terrible. But anyways, in this picture, we'll get back to this instead of getting too far in that political structure of the North Korea of Colorado that I live in. Um, but anyways, that's why I'm creating all this artwork. I'm hoping that somebody will help me out somewhere and actually get this thing done so I can actually uh, live a life that I've been working for far too long. And and that's what this is. As an artist and an author, this building right here is actually a fortification. You can see the first wall right there. This whole thing was created in the past, a long, long time ago, and they used a process that pushed the soil up into the back, kind of like a tidal wave of soil and rock that formed in the back on either side of this building. And it's convex, so it makes it really difficult to try to scale it or climb it if you tried to get over the outer walls, which are incredibly high. I would say there's probably at least a good 20 or 30 human heads high. That would probably be about what, 60, 80 feet, maybe 100 or so. I'm not sure exactly. I was just drawing this just because it looked kind of pretty and neat. So I didn't really scale everything to scale. I tried, but I didn't do it the whole entire thing. But yeah, it's pretty steep. These walls are designed to be difficult to climb, and they get convex, so the angle keeps changing. It's not 90 degrees. It keeps changing. It gives you the illusion that it might be difficult to climb, and then it gets easy to climb, then it gets really difficult to climb, and it's meant to mess with anybody trying to climb the walls like that, straight up. So you have to come up with a different way to do that. Now, Virtus is losing all of his men because they keep popping up. They're not soldiers. They're cult-like evil priests of this dark temple that was murdering and killing and enslaving the population of Trevelyan Hold until the return of the Trevelyan Hold Lord, where he returned and everybody was filled with this sense of hope for the future because of the Ukiyo-e who's giving birth to the Jintru, the child there, and she's caused so many other couples to uh, be with child and stuff like that. So they have this great hope for the future, and this is what finally was Versus' downfall, was hope, and it chased him to this fortress right here with an outer wall where he's losing his troops. He's being dwindled down in size and number. And then there's a second wall that's even steeper, has a bunch of oil ports, a bunch of defensive columns. It has a bunch of thunder rods, new weapons, which are guns, and they're basically the old flintlock type guns. And well, they don't really use flintlocks. They use a different kind of magics, but they're pretty much guns for the most part. And so they can defend this place pretty well with a small force, but Trevelyan Hold has their military force out there, and they've been growing in size, and they're going to be able to eventually take this place. And up in the metal tower there, there's a big giant glass stained window to peace. That was because this is the place that the final peace treaty was settled between the three kingdoms. And this is what brought an end to the war. The Fey Falcon Wars ended here and stuff. And there's a big, huge stained glass window that Vertus ends up being before and stuff, and he doesn't know what to do. He thinks it's mocking him because he's going to be forced into a peaceful resolution. He knows it's coming. He knows that he's about to lose this keep. Even with the new technology, or the old technology in this case, because it was built into the building, those are actual, the on the first wall there, you see these orbs, there's like 6 of them. Those are actual hot air balloons, and they can be filled with air and filled with troops, and they lift off by chains uh, to surround this place and attack from the air at great significant distance. So it's really hard for any forces on the ground to actually target them or hit them. It's a new technology. It was never tested out, but they incorporated it in the building. Well, this is a different world after all. And it just thought that was a really neat idea to do that, test out some new stuff. And well, we'll see how that actually turns out. You'll have to read the book to find out how that went. And well, he's just waiting there, waiting for his final end, his demise, because he doesn't have the remaining forces to even hold this keep here on the border. And it doesn't seem like he's getting any reinforcements from Kenilworth on the only one bridge that is right behind that tower that spans a chasm. And then there's a whole bunch of really steep slopes and mountain ranges in the back. And yeah, what you see in the book cover, book 2, yeah, that's what's going to come across the bridge. That's going to be Dresde and her army that she brings. So I guess that's kind of a little bit of a spoiler how that's going to go. But we're in this building and we're in this keep, so I had to draw it, so I had to give an idea of what it's going to look like and what it was going to be. I don't know if I'm going to get around to actually colorizing this or improving it any. I was playing with the idea of what kind of stones it was going to be made out of, what kind of structure it's ultimately going to look like. Um, so yeah, it was going to be. It's been built. It's covers about 3 chapters, maybe 2 or 3 chapters, and then eventually they leave this place and then they go towards the actual palace that was created in the earlier chapters, and they're going to lay siege to that. So there's going to be a little bit of that, a tit for tat there, and eventually through book 2, they're going to go through several different scenes. You start the book uh, not even on the world of Ishmat. You're not even there. You're actually in the cosmos, in the heavens, and then into the cosmos, and then you're back here, and you find people traveling across the lands of Kenilworth and returning back to Trevelyan Hold, and how it turns into the very first incursion that turns it into the land of the potentate, which will start in book 3. And then you will be on a trek of nature, uh, the forest, the fauna, the type of creatures that you're going to be running into. Book 2 pretty much goes into a lot more of the myth, the lore, the backstory behind the whole entire thing, while telling you a current story that takes place roughly about 20 years before um, the events of the first book, because the main some of the aspects of the main characters, the main heroes, has to be established through this book. And there's a really fantastic finale to this, which is somewhat of a cliffhanger. And you'll have to read the book to actually enjoy it, because it is really, well, after I wrote it and stuff like that, I am surprised about how good my writing's getting, and how great the book series is moving along. And I tell you, it's not like I'm actually writing it. It's like I'm hearing the stories and I'm just recording it and just making the story according to maybe somebody else's thoughts. Don't know, but no, they're mine. It's all me. It's all me just creating this thing, and you'll see the fantastic story that gets told through this book, the Book of Jintru. It continues on from Lost Hope, And then in book 3, we pick back up with Kumithra and what happened to her after her boat trip that she was left in from the book 1. And and then I'll go into the land of the potentate and how that ended up with the ending that you find in book 2 is in book 3, Land of the Potentate part 1, because there's a going to be a Land of the Potentate part 2, because that story too also has its ups and downs, and it's a fantastic tale for 3 books so far. And after the 3rd book, I'm debating which one we're really going to go into, if it's going to be book 5 or book 4, if I'm going to reverse the order on those two, because one of those is going to be more of the seas of Ishmat, because these are sea elves after all, right? Underwater people. Well, you get to see a little bit more of that because we're going to go from an island into the water, and that's the Isle of Harumth. And we need to discuss what's going on with that one because it's very important because, Princess Kumithra, she's actually related to Queen Zankara, her mother, who is from the Isle of Harumth. And the whole story that went on there, that happened in the past, that's the future, that's the present, uh, is part of the heroic story of Hespesia and Bronanes happening in that part of that story too. That's actually transitioning to some other elements that are going to be brought on in later books. We also have the side story of in book 5 of Setoria and how her adventure goes. I don't want to give away all the characters yet. I haven't really fleshed those 2 books out totally yet. But in that one, that's Excursion 2.x because there's been many incursions and there's been many things going on in this world that are, well, altering the cosmos and the universe and the politics of our time and how we're going to overcome the nonsense politics that we currently have. How can we overcome that? Because I have to admit, after living my life so long, having so much experience, and having nothing but negative impacts from our way of, well, the Democrat government is awful. It's like a form of communism and socialism. It's not real democracy. It isn't. It's more of a tyranny because it's been isolating parts of our American society from having access or any say in our politics. So is it democracy? Do we have democracy anymore? I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to figure that one out. But this is just a small little sketch. I just wanted to show you it. I'm thinking of colorizing it. I'm working on several other sketches that I'm already uh, colorizing, moving on to, and I haven't revealed any of those yet because it's complicated. The whole story is really complicated. I have several tiny little drawings that I made uh, trying to define what Yoranthium looks like. Um, what the form of it is, and a lot of it is just basic rough sketches like this. This is a rough, and this rough sketch here, it took me a few hours to actually figure out what it should look like, what it could look like, what it might be like, and create a story behind why the walls are the way they are, the defenses, and how it all goes into larger parts of the story. And I found drawing some of this is actually quite useful. I hope that you find it quite useful, and if it inspires you to actually understand a little bit more of what goes into creating imagery for a lot of the artwork that you may have seen and stuff like that in this world, then I hope this helped you out. Well, anyways, I'm Mark Bromley. Do help out the Yoranthium book series. I do actually need it because, well, we need to explore a lot of things here in our modern world a little bit better. And I think that this North Koreaism that's happening in the United States, I mean, the American version of a North Korea is very terrible. I mean, yeah, they can give you access to wealth, but if it's not enough to do anything and it still keeps you starving and leaving you without the resources that you need and you can't get your book published and they're trying to dictate what's said and what's not said. they're dictating what's said and what's not said, and it continues to go this way, and it continues on and on this path that we're currently on. We're looking at a meltdown eventually here in the United States. We're looking at a terrible future, and it's being created by your very Democrat Party as we speak. And they let it happen because they're listening to the globalists, a bunch of foreign dictators. I mean, how did they come up with this idea that they could trust these people in foreign countries who are living in really terrible dystopian type of worlds themselves, and they actually follow those people? I can't see it. I don't know how anybody could ever follow the WEF, the United Nations, the WHO, or even China. I mean, why would anybody want to follow China? That's insane. It's like following Putin. Who'd want to follow that? Nobody wants to follow that. That's just sickening. Nobody wants to follow Zelensky either. Nobody cares about those kind of leaders. They're terrible. They're awful people. So why is our Democrats following those people? Why are they taking that foreign money to buy their politics? Why? Why are they taking our taxes and giving it back to them? Why do that? Why give it to these oligarchs? We'll talk more about that later in the book series as we move forward. And I can understand why they're trying to keep me in the North Korea of the United States and not give me any money or take care of my book series or anything like that. I can understand. I can understand because I'm picking them apart. I'm picking apart their plans. And so they're going to use their wealth and their resources to try to undermine me. I understand. I understand. But that's why you should help out the Yoranthium book series all the more. Be a rebel. Push back against the wrongs going on in our current politics. You know, there are problems within our school system itself right now where a lot of bad politicians got promoted, um, and they've created division. They created divisions of the public school and those people that were becoming political inconveniences for them. They turned them into homeschoolers. They pushed them out of the public schools deliberately so they don't have to interact with them, so they don't have to deal with them on the PTA, so they don't have to deal with them in politics, so they can just push their cult of woke narrative. And it's a terrible narrative. It's awful because it doesn't really respect a large portion of the population that doesn't feel that way, that doesn't think that way. It's like they want to force this kind of mind think on people that is completely inaccurate and wrong to force that on anybody. And I should know they've already used their wealth and their resources to buy corruption in our newspaper systems, our news articles. I talked about that a little bit earlier. And yeah, it's all the stuff I experience in real life does become part of my books. And now those Democrats, they're all upset. They make threats towards me. They say, you can't tell people anything. You can't tell people about us. It's like, yeah, I can. I can tell people plenty about you. And yeah, I'm going to write my Uranthium book series. And if you see something reflected in it that you don't like, tough. You deserve it. You deserve to be ratted out. You deserve me calling you on it. Because what they've been doing is wrong. It is really evil what they've been doing to people. And, you can go to the movie Faces of Death. In that, there was a very prolific piece back in the late 80s, 90s. They created the Faces of Death. There was a Russian, um, there was a Russian man. He was in debt to the local government, which was basically an organized crime mafia outfit in Russia. And they grabbed that man, they tied him to four horses, and they ripped him apart. Literally in the movie, you're going to see this in the Faces of Death. Um, they ripped him apart using horses drawn and quartered, and everybody else was watching that, and they were kind of shocked at first. And then they find out that the man owed the equivalency of 25 US dollars to the mafia government of that part of Russia. And that's why he got drawn and quartered, because he was in debt $25. That is the same story that happened to George Floyd. The very same story happened to George Floyd here in the United States. $20 Confederate counterfeit money, $20 of counterfeit money. That's what he was accused of having in that store. And that's why the police were called. That's what the whole situation was all about. And he got a knee on his neck, and he tried to fight for life, telling him that he can't breathe, he's having difficulty breathing, and they didn't lighten up until they accidentally killed him. He died for $20. Faces of death, all over again. And we know about this one. We know about this one in the United States. Have we changed, or have we gotten worse? We've gotten worse. Because, see, it's not the police that were the problem. The police are never the problem. It's the leadership. And that's why I write this book about Virtus, to show you how Virtus's leadership led to these situations, led to these catastrophes that were happening in society, and how he has this police force forced into servitude, forced into these terrible working conditions because of his leadership. And that's what I'm talking about in the Yoranthium book series. So, yeah, this is a prolific piece. This part here in the story starts to get you the foundations of how this all starts and how terrible it could be. And it gives you this, and it presents you this person that is just a product of monstrous behavior. And it's our current leadership in the United States, monstrous behavior on our politics, attacking everybody that's better than them. They attack me quite a bit because I'm better than most of the leadership that they actually have. I'm definitely better than the Kyle Malika I ran against because he's a monster. That's all he is, just a terrible monster. So is his wife, terrible monsters. And if they get their hands on government, they are going to do some real heinous and terrible things, and it's already happening. You can see the inflation. I ran into a person in the store yesterday, and he was talking about the having to pay 10 cents for a bag here in Colorado when they don't do that in Texas. And I said, well, yeah, it's the state legislator that legislated that. The legislator legislated that? It's like, yeah, they did. They legislate a lot of things. And, the businesses didn't get a say in that. They didn't get a say in that at all. And so, I guess the only way around it is that maybe the manufacturers have to put bags on the back of their products. I mean, if you buy a bag of chips, you get a bag, right? So you can carry your stuff out of the store with something silly like that. I'm not sure exactly how that all goes down, but those bags that were being provided by the stores, they were paid for because of they shared the expense of those bags across the products that you buy. So that's how they do it. They do the business. These elected leaders aren't businessmen. They don't own their own businesses, and it's weird that they're going to dictate what businesses have to do when those who are being elected into office by the ruinous Democrats don't operate their own business. They don't really have a real business. I mean, the person I'm running against right now, she created a consulting firm because she's a poli-sci major. All poli-sci majors, they're all consultants for some reason. All consultants. Why? Because what is a poli-sci major? Telemarketer and a door-to-door salesman. That's what a poli-sci major actually is. It's just a fancy name for door-to-door sales and telemarketing. This is why they create all these made-up, fake, phony consulting firms. Hell, I even own a consulting firm when I'm not doing nothing. Sounds good to me. But you know what? I think most of them would be better off if they just went into underwater basket weaving. At least that's a real job, and we see in it. That show, Deadliest Catch, that's underwater basket weaving at its finest. So that's a real job. But poli-sci gender study, that's not a job. That's just some made up buffoonery. Running around trying to pretend that you're somebody when you're nothing. You're not even a leader. Real leaders are forged in the military, to tell you the truth. That's where your real leaders are actually forged because they're dealing with life and death on a daily basis. They're dealing with real situations, real hazards, real difficulties. This is where you find real leaders. You're not going to find a real leader created in a college. You're just not going to find a real leader found there because they're not. They'll let you down, they'll betray you, and it's their sense of greed that ultimately ruins the United States. And yeah, that's what people keep voting on. They're foolish enough to do it because, many of them have these fake pseudoscience degrees, and these fake pseudoscience degrees are just fancy words for a form of salesman. And that's all it really is. It's just a telemarketer and a door-to-door salesman. That's basically all they truly, actually ever will be. And it's sad that they don't see the truth. That if they actually took the course underwater basket weaving, they could be making baskets for deadliest catch, and they can catch more crabs, lobsters, and fish. But there's the morals of the story right there. There's a part of the story right there. I guess that's part of the politics going on, and that's in the Yoranthium book series. Well, thank you for listening to me. I do ramble on these things, and I do hope that you liked my rendition right here. I hope it inspires you to do some artwork too, and increase and become better. I'm going to eventually get around to colorizing this and making it look a lot more awesome. So here's one step. Step one, make the doodle. And there you go. An art lesson, political lesson, philosophical lesson, a lesson about the Uranthium book series, and some hope that I can get funding to actually bring this series to life and actually complete it and do a lot more better work for all of you. So help me out. Get me out of this North Korea, Colorado that I'm in. No American should have to experience what I experienced, what me and a whole bunch of people that I've worked with in the Navy had to experience. Nobody has to die for $20 like George Floyd did. Nobody should be having that happen to him. Nobody should have died in Russia for $25 in debt to what a mafia organized crime government that was going on in Russia. It's happening here now because they want to be communists. They're following socialism. They have these CCCPs. There's a lot of C's and P's being added together, meaning communist. And you can see it if you look at the Veterans Monument they created here in Northland, Colorado. It's an ode to socialism. It was built in socialist realism, a knockoff of American realism. So yeah, it's socialism, it's communism. That's basically what they're advertising here in the North Korea, Northland, Colorado. And it's going to be reflected in my work. And all these bad politicians, they're going to be reflected in my work. And I'm going to be talking up a shitstorm in these books. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be great. It's a good story because it's all dressed up in fiction. So it looks like a fantastic story. And you can just take it at face value. A fantastic story. But if you look deeper, I put in little side notes sometimes to explain lines of thoughts and ideas going on in there so you can actually see that there's a real world connection uh, in this fiction and fantasy of high fantasy, that there's actually a real world connection to modern politics and modern ideas going on in it. And hopefully it enlightens you, it inspires you, and we are able to push back against those third of the abuser people in this world that are making the world awful, and maybe we can de-escalate them to a point where they're a very, very small percentage and they're no longer a third, and that we actually care about life around us, the world itself, the people that live in it. Help me out with that. Let's find out if we can figure that out together. All right. Thank you. I'm Mark Bromley, artist and author of the Uranthium book series, and I created this drawing in 2023. You have a great day.